This is the Vinyl Chamber podcast with Matt and Steph.
I Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher topped the charts from 26th of August to the 9th September. Sonny Bono writes and produces this number, which is on the Atlantic label.
They say we're young and we don't know. We won't find out until we grow. Well, I don't know if all that's true, 'cause you got me and baby, I got you. Babe, I got you, babe. I got you, babe. They say our love won't pay the rent before it's earned. Our money's all been spent. I guess that's so we don't have a pot, but at least I'm sure of all the things we got. Babe, I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I got flowers in the spring. I got you to wear my ring. And when I'm sad, you're a clown. And if I get scared, you're always around. So let them say your hair's too long. I don't care, with you I can't go wrong. Then put your little hand in mine. There ain't no hill or mountain we can't climb. Babe, I got you, babe.
Yeah, sometimes key changes at the end of songs can be gratuitous and it's often a sign of an attempt to elevate a weak song. But in this case, I think it's quite appropriate, and I like the way that they lift that with a modulation at the end there after the middle eight. But what I'd forgotten about, just listen, I'll turn over to you in a moment, Matt. What I'd forgotten about, I just really liked just listening back to that again. I just love that kind of soprano sax, those two soprano sax notes that during the.
Is it soprano sax? I was asking you whether it was an oboe or soprano sax. I thought it might be an oboe, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm doubting myself now. My instinct was soprano sax. It's definitely
it might be.
Definitely a reeded instrument. Whether it's a double reed or a single reed, I don't know. But anyway, my point is it's very effective. And
I agree.
Did UB40 cover this?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably where I heard it first.
Yes, they did indeed. I mean, I love this song. What strikes me, Steph, is actually how similar Sonny and Cher's voice. Well, here's the thing. Look, this is a thing. Yeah. I'll try and be a bit of humour. It reminds me. I'm actually thinking of Grandad and Clive Dunn. Whereas Grandad, Clive Dunn was about 27, playing pretending to be a man of about 146. This is actually Sonny Bono, actually in his 30s, pretending to be a kind of a teenager. That's a slight exaggeration, but of course there's a huge age difference between Sonny and Cher. What strikes me about listening to that song is how similar two things really. How similar their voices are. They sound almost interchangeable, and also what a great voice Cher has. And I think it's a, correct me if I'm wrong, a contralto, I believe. A very, very good singer. No, I think I'm a very, very good singer. Look, I mean, the thing is, there's no great mystery about Sonny and Cher's story. I think the common thread was actually Phil Spector, and I think Sonny Bono was a kind of songwriting hack, did some work for Phil Spector, and as a part of Phil Spector's stable, he had Cheryl Sarkisian. I just had to look that one up, by the way. Born in Cher in California. And Sonny Bono, Salvatore Philip Bono, but so thank God they called themselves Sonny and Cher, much easier. But Bono wasn't a bad songwriter. He'd actually been behind the Searchers' 64 hit Needles and Pins with Jack Nietzsche, and Cher by this time, Steph, 1965, was a very highly rated backing singer. He played on several Spector hits, including "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes, and another song we covered earlier, "You've Lost That Loving Feeling."
But this was Spector produced. I was wondering that when I listened to this. He produced this, did he?
Well, no, he actually didn't. Sonny Bono himself produced it, and I hope
this had a
lovely
that kind of Spector vibe.
No,
about it.
100%, Steph, 100%. It's very Spector-esque, isn't it? And but of course, there is a very close link to Spector, which is probably why that. And apparently, it was written as a kind of counterbalance to Bob Dylan's '64, much more acerbic. It ain't me, babe. I Got You, Babe was the. Also, I like that. I agree with you about that lovely. I have to find out what that instrument is actually, because I love that. It's so simple, but it's also it's in a waltz 3/4 time, isn't it? Which I think gives it that kind of bouncy sort of like almost Straussian feel, if I can use that one, and. Basically, I mean, Cher was still a teenager at this time, and Sonny was pushing 30. And he's starting to look a bit old for all this kind of hippie malarkey stuff, which is what this song is espousing. It's about the kind of young love raiding against the older generation, which is very much a kind of 60s trope, wasn't it? So, but I really like this. I love it. I think it's brilliantly produced. There's some lovely guitar, some lovely sort of ringing guitar there in the background. And as I say, I'm interested to know what that. I'm sure you're right, Steph, on that. But
I'm not actually. I've just looked it up. It's there's a bassoon playing in the verse.
A bassoon.
In the verse, but the high pitched reeded instrument in the chorus. I just looked it up, and it is an oboe.
Oh, it is an oboe. Okay, it sounded like an oboe. Who was that great? Was it John Carnac, that oboe player, that oboist we played with?
No, he was a clarinetist.
Was he a clarinetist? Who played oboe? Who in our circle played oboe? Maybe not. Maybe
nobody that I can remember. No.
Yeah. Clarinet, there's another one. Anyway, I agree. I'm glad you picked that one out, because it's a very distinctive, clever use. It shows how just the judicious use of two notes can be an effective enhancement to a musical number. I like it. The Wrecking Crew were the backing musicians. Yeah, well, we could do a whole podcast on the Wrecking. In fact, I watched a documentary about the Wrecking Crew recently, and if anyone doesn't know, they were like a sort of this established stable of musicians, top-notch, world-class musicians who would play on all the, so many of these hits of the time. Carol Kay, the bassist, was part of them, I think.
She was, and so was Glenn Campbell.
Oh, cool! Glenn Campbell, very much so.
And the drummer was Hal Blaine. But
Hal Blaine, all top musicians.
That reminds me that there's something I needed to tell you, and now is a good time to tell you about it, Matt. Since we need to, because there will be times when occasionally we need to explain things to put context to what we're talking about to people that might not necessarily know, such as, for example, what the Wrecking Crew is. And it just so happens that I just recently found out that I've got a sister that I didn't know about. She's roughly the same age as me. No, that's right. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And the reason I know. Well,
this is nuts.
No, it's a
what,
funny
a full
story.
Sister? A full sister?
Well, I'm not sure. This is what I'm about to tell you, because she was born on the International Space Station.
This is breaking news, listeners, by the way. Yeah, breaking news.
She was born on the International Space Station.
This gets weirder.
Yeah, no, I know. And so she has recently come back after, spending pretty much her whole life up there. So there are certain things that we take for granted there are certain things that we take for granted that we know that she wouldn't necessarily know. So there will be times when, for example, for Francesca, that's her name, we will need to explain certain concepts. And for Francesca's benefit, the Wrecking Crew is a legendary group of session musicians that played on many tracks, well-known tracks in the 60s and 70s, and featured such luminaries as Glenn Campbell, Hal Blaine, Carol Kay on bass, and in this case, the oboist name was Warren Webb. just for Francesca.
Okay. Well, Warren. Well, hello, Francesca. Hopefully, I'll meet you at some stage. That's a bit of a bombshell there.
Well, that hasn't happened yet. We're sort of connecting through comments on the pod at the moment. She's a fan of the pod, and she listens a lot, and that's how we communicate at the moment through the engaging through the.
Unbelievable. Okay. Well, there you go. You dropped that one on me. So
there you go. Since we paused, I should also say that I'm not in my normal studio tonight. I'm on the road for work, and so I'm in a service department. So if the quality of the audio or the video isn't up to scratch, that's why. But hopefully it's serviceable, as you would say. It's an adjective that you used in our last episode. Well, let's move on then to a very well-known song indeed.
It's back to the top for 2 weeks for the Stones with the Jagger Richards pen classic I Can't Get No Satisfaction on Decca, produced by Andrew Loog Oldham.
Whilst we were listening to that, I was Googling what the instrument is at the beginning there. So perhaps you could tell, for my benefit, for Francesca's benefit, and for everybody's benefit, what the Gibson Maestro FZ1 fuzz tone pedal is.
Well, I mean, you might not know actually that I'm actually I'm not a huge fan of kind of guitar effects particularly. I like pure guitars, but this was a very early example of actually kind of a fuzz pedal, if you liked, on a guitar, and such a simple riff, 3 notes, da, 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 da. 3 different notes, obviously the more notes numerically, but in such a simple riff, Keith Richards created one of the most famous, arguably, is it the most famous riff in rock history? Possibly not, but right up there, instantly identifiable as a Stones number. To me, it's a riff which sums up an era, it sums up an attitude. It's a really gritty, no-nonsense riff, and the guitar riffs on some other number ones we've heard this year, Ticket to Ride, Mr. Tambourine Man, great riffs in their own right, but chiming and bright, and optimistic and positive. And this one is all about kind of attitude. It's kind of a raunchy, almost aggressive feel. And I haven't always been the biggest advocate of Bill Wyman's bass playing, but I think his bass line on the back of Richard's riff works really well. And it dovetails perfectly with Mick Jagger's angry lyrics, which again are basically on its most superficial level about getting no girl reaction. There's this kind of sexual overtone to it. I can't get no satisfaction, but it also I think it goes a bit further than that. It's kind of railing against society as a whole. Of course, the Rolling Stones almost wore like a badge their kind of anti-social kind of credentials, also their anti-consumerism, and it talks about receiving useless information on the television. That great line about that Jagger sings about a man coming on to say how white your shirts can be, but he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me. And they're really about sort of Jagger singing about boredom, apathy, the poor quality of advertising at the time. So there's a bit of social comment on there, and I understand the riff for Steph rather obliquely was inspired by Martha and the Vandellas Dancing on the Street, which is interesting. Of course, Jagger later had a number one with David Bowie in the mid-'80s, and Charlie Watts, we talked about his drumming. I think he drums brilliantly on this, that driving beat. You talked about a dragging beat. This is, again, back to that propulsion. And it was recorded at Stone's favourite studio, RCA Studios in Hollywood, where they did much of their best work. So, to me, it defines an era. It defines the Rolling Stones. And, again, it wouldn't be my favourite Stones song, but I love it and I can see it for what it is. And I think it's a great number. And it was number one for just 1 week, actually, as Lana will have explained, at the start of September. So kids all over the world would have been going back to school in '65. In fact, just before you were born, Steph. In fact, 4 days before you were born. No, it was number one for 2 weeks. Leaving number one at 23rd of September. I believe you were born on the 27th of September, '65.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. When anybody wanted to steal my identity now has got a distinct advantage. So thanks for that. Okay, well... I
don't think people will be rushing up to do that, Steph, but...
No, that's all right. All right, I find... That, I don't know, that doesn't excite me at all, that song. It reminds me in one way of Rebel Rebel by David Bowie.
Yeah.
It's another song which just doesn't have any dynamic to it, and it's just boring, and that to me. And this is this comes in that category. I'm sorry, I know it's a heretic thing to say, but there it is. I've said it. I've said it out loud.
That's your opinion. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there will be people.
I think we had a crack at this one with Sheep Dip as well. I seem to recall.
I think we've had a crack at just about everything, haven't we? I mean, at Sheep Dip, certainly nobody could accuse us of not being eclectic in our tastes. No. Everything from New York State of Mind to Satisfaction to Sex Pistols.
All the '60s stuff, I think, as we alluded to in our last recording, was. Probably your influence, with the exception of Blood, Sweat and Tears, Spinning Wheel, which I brought into the set list. But
as I said that, I think that was one of your ones. But I mean, Steve Nolan, of course, was quite into his '60s stuff as well. Yeah, it was an interesting blend, interesting dynamics in that band, actually, in terms of our kind of musical taste, which probably worked quite well. Yeah, but. I mean, the Stones and back to the Stones and for me, the Rolling Stones, the greatest years were 65 and 66. I mean, they've been an incredibly long career, but I almost switch off from them after about 68, which that may be almost a heretical statement of my own for Stones fans that love the likes of Exile on Main Street and Sticky Fingers and Black and Blue and that period, Let It Bleed. I particularly like the mid-'60s kind of London sound, if you like, even though this was recorded in Hollywood. The Stones of Aftermath and to a lesser extent Between the Buttons, but this for me is the Stones at their best.
Burt Bacharach and Hal David wrote the number one for the Walker Brothers, which was number one for 1 week between 23rd and 30th of September. Johnny Franz produced it on the Philips label.
Oh, breaking up is so very hard to do. If you really love him, and there's nothing I can do. Don't try to spare my feelings, just tell me that we're through, and make it easy on yourself. If the way I hold you can compare to his caress, no words of consolation will make me.
All right, Matt. So, what do you know about this one? Obviously I know the song, but I don't know who wrote it.
Well, I know quite a lot about it. I mean, first of all, the great Walker Brothers. They obviously hailed from the States, but they moved to the UK in 1964. They weren't brothers, by the way. Just to the same way as the Righteous Brothers weren't brothers, nor the Walker Brothers. This was Scott Engel, John Mouse, and Gary Leeds. I mean, first of all, fantastic voices. Scott Walker, truly great baritone voice, with John Mouse providing the high harmonies to the band, a bit like Bill Medley and Bobby Hatfield in the Righteous Brothers. And again, it's that Spector. Even though it's Johnny Friends producing this, it's that great Phil Spector wall of sound, written by Bacharach and David. Again, I mean, there's a, I mean, a songwriting partnership to make you drool, and originally recorded by the great Jerry Butler, who was lead singer with the Impressions. This is classic Walker Brothers, by the way. It's kind of haunting echo. It's very powerful. It's almost sort of cinematic in its approach, a kind of sweeping, sort of epic sound to it. And in fact, it was originally, I said it was recorded by Jerry Butler. It was also recorded by the Isley Brothers as well. And the story goes, Steph, it had been promised to Dionne Warwick, and apparently she wasn't best pleased. Yeah, no, absolutely. And she wasn't best pleased when it went elsewhere. I think the Walker Brothers are brilliant. I think Scott Walker, and they're all unfortunately all passed away now, but I think Scott Walker is fantastic. I think in that opening bar, there's that wonderful, you sort of blink and you almost miss it, a great minor to major chord change, which shifts the song forward. And I think it's a great ballad, this, but I would say topped, even bettered by the song the Walker Brothers would have a number one with a year later in '66, which will come for. I won't reveal what that is now. If the students will know that song, but I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's a superb number. It's got the Bacharach David songwriting stamp on it. I think it's brilliantly produced. Interestingly, another one of the few modern bands, they'll still be called modern, that I admire is Ash, who came out of Northern Ireland, Downpatrick in Northern Ireland, and they sampled the opening of this on one of their early singles, one of their singles called Candy, and I think they did it really, really well. They sampled it brilliantly. So I love this song. I love the Walker Brothers, and I think it's brilliantly produced and brilliantly orchestrated.
The Liverpudlian comic Ken Dodd had the best-selling single of the year, topping the chart for 5 weeks from the 30th of September to the 4th of November with this old ballad, Tears. Written by Billy Yore and Frank Caperno, which was produced by Norman Newell on Columbia.
Tears for souvenirs are all you left me. Memories of a love you never meant. I just can't believe you could forget me. After all those happy hours we spent together, tears have been my only consolation. But tears can't mend a broken heart, I must confess. Let's forgive and forget. turn our tears of regret once more to tears of happiness.
Yes, it sort of conjures up family during wartime, crowding round the wireless with a mug of Ovaltine. It's that kind of vibe to it, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's hideous, isn't it? I mean, first of all, look, like Ken Dodd. I mean, I feel like we should mess all our hair up, have protruding teeth, and have a tickle stick, and sort of say what a lovely day it is, and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you what, grew up with Ken Dodd and his Diddy Men. Don't know about you, Steph, but I was petrified by the Diddy Men. I don't know if you remember the Diddy Men. Ken Dodd and his Diddy Men, early 70s, scared the life out of me. Those things did. I was much more of a fan of Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. You remember Lamb Chop? Yeah. There's another one, Lamb Chop. Remember Lamb Chop? Yeah. Here's a story for you. Talk about the 60s. Everyone talks about the 60s as being, the decade which changed everything. It did change everything. There's no doubt about it. But in the decade that brought us the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Tamla Motown and all this kind of garage band and all this, and great singles like A Whiter Shade of Pale, this 1930s crooner was actually the third biggest seller of the entire decade. And just let that sink in. Only She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles sold more. And the funny thing about the 60s is that, having said all that, where this kind of stuff was supposedly washed away in a kind of colourful haze of guitars and joss sticks and psychedelia and all this kind of long hair, the British public was still a sucker for for a crooner, and which enabled the likes of Des O'Connor, Engelbert Humperdinck, and now Ken Dodd to top the charts. But funny enough, Dodd actually was a trained singer. Steph, he had a decent voice. Do I like the song Tears? No, I don't. I certainly don't. I think it's a awful song. It goes back to 1920. I said it's 30. It goes back to 1929. It was recorded by someone called Rudy Valley. Not to be confused with The Valley, but Charlton's Ground. But I mean,
thanks for clearing that up, because I was confused. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it absolutely extraordinary that.
Was it written by Les Reed? Was it?
No, it wasn't. No, unfortunately not. No. That's a running joke, by the way, listeners. There, yeah. We're trying to avoid too many inside jokes, but that is one of them. So, I mean, it's just a schmaltzy, croony ballad which doesn't excite me lyrically or musically or emotionally, but. It shows the propensity of the British record buying public to fall for this kind of song, and as I say, it sold millions and millions and millions. And it's up here on my wall somewhere, as all the number ones are. And
probably as a nod to our USP. Is there any chance you can show us it?
Let me try and find it.
Beyond reach.
No, hang on a sec. Let's see. Hang on a sec. What have we got here?
Whilst
Ticket to Ride.
Whilst you're looking for it, that one thing that put me in mind of, in terms of its place as a piece of nostalgia. I think about 10, 12 years after this, Laurel and Hardy had a hit with Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Do you remember that? That was re-released.
Yeah, Trailer Loans. Yeah, January, right at the end of 75, going into 76, around the time of Bohemian Rhapsody. In fact, Bohemian Rhapsody gets off the top.
Yeah, okay. Well, still got number 2. All right. Well, it's that kind of. There's always been a place for nostalgia.
Yeah, but I love that. I love Trailer Loads of Pine. I love Trailer Loads of Pine. I think it's a great one. Hang about. Let me try and get this up here.
I'm just trying to fill the dead air whilst you're.
There we go. I have found
Columbia
it. It's on
again.
the Columbia label. There it is, yeah, Columbia. Well, it's all about Columbia, Decca, London, Pi, RCA. Yeah. There it is, Columbia. Tears by Ken Dodd, written by, who's it written by, actually? Billy and Frank Capano, a very, very old songwriting pair. I can't pretend to have heard of them. Keith Prowse's name's on there. Keith Prowse.
Okay.
was behind it somewhere, Steph. Not entirely sure, but his name's on the record there. K. Prowse, Meko, Liko, something or other. 1965.
Maybe he distributed it or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Jeff Love. Jeff Love was the orchestration, a famous orchestra leader from that time. Steph, he was behind the song. So yeah, there you go. Ken Dodd has I wouldn't say it has a proud place on my wall, but it has a place because it got to number one, and it well, as Lana would have told listeners, it was number one for 5 weeks.
Well, Lana's now going to introduce my favourite of the 3 Rolling Stones song from this year, and here we go.
And can I just say, Steph, can we listen out for the great? I'm a sucker for a drum intro, and I love Charlie Watts' drum intro here.
Nudging Ken Dodd out of the way, the Stones return to the summit with the usual songwriting and production team with Get Off My Cloud, number 1 on Decca for 3 weeks through November.
Yeah, that's great. The Trogs, who a few years later came out with Wild Thing, probably got some apology to make there, but this came first, and I really like this. It's just the energy and the attitude. I love the way that Charlie Watts really drives the rhythm there. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's brilliant. I've talked about my enthusiasm for the Stones. I'm glad you pointed out.
Is it one of theirs, or is it a cover?
Oh no, 100%. This is Jack and Richard all over it, and we mentioned Charlie Watts. I love that intro, and I love it was like military at the end of each line that Jagger sings. Watts gives I don't know the technical term is not paradiddle, but a kind of.
Well, it's just a feel. It's probably a bit too much actually, because I think he does it a bit too much for my taste. But it's
maybe.
I think it's just a recurring motif that is a feature of the song there. But it's good. I like what he's doing with his bass drum.
Yeah, absolutely. The overall soundscape, I think is fantastic. Now it's built around a very simple three. Yeah, you mentioned Wild Thing, and I can see why you do, because it's basically it's those 3 power chords of E and A and B. It just climbs up to an A flat in the bass on the chorus, and it goes down to a D and then back to a B. But I don't want to get too technical because that would kind of take away a great song. Also, again, those 3 chords. But again, I used that word siren in the last time. There's like a siren playing in the background. I think it must be Brian Jones playing that, and Keith Richards played some fantastic power chords. Those E A B. Bill Wyman played a really good bass line actually, and again, fantastic fantastic lyrics. Jagger right at the top of his range here, I think. And what I've always loved the song that paints pictures, and this does this well. Very visual lyrics by Jagger, talking about a man dressed up like a Union Jack, dressing a certain type of detergent pack. Again, the little kind of pop at consumerism of the 60s. It's kind of like this kind of existential angst of a man railing against society. Apparently, it was written in frustration by Jagger under pressure to deliver a follow-up to Satisfaction. And it was kind of almost like the sense of being kind of crowded in and that kind of pressure. And the band always felt it was rushed out. I absolutely love this song. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a classic, really. And I'd probably go so far to say it's my favourite Stones song of all time. And being a massive Stones fan of this era, that is some praise. Not that my praise is important, but just as a kind of as an overview of that period, I think it's an absolutely brilliant song. I really do.
And I think the lo-fi, the fact that if it was, I mean, it's interesting that you say it was done in a hurry, because the kind of lo-fi result is actually adds to the atmosphere of the whole thing. I really like that. Of the three.
No, I would agree with you. I would agree with you, Steph. And Andrew Loog Oldham. I mean, at times I've been critical of his. It's almost as though the Stones were trying to be everything the Beatles wasn't. So almost like the kind of production by George Martin was kind of like crystal clear, almost like running water, like a bell. Like the Stones had a much more kind of muddy production, which Andrew Loog Oldham was his trademark, really. It was almost like I don't know whether he was kind of it's almost like he was trying to find a middle ground between Spector and Martin, maybe, but it's kind of, which often I felt critical of, because I think Wyman's bass would often get lost in it, the guitars would lack a bit of definition, but I think on this one it really works. And maybe the lo-fi thing, as you said, it's that kind of much more attitude, much more kind of slightly raw edges that the Stones were experts at this time.
Yeah. No, it's good. All right. Well, look, Lana's champing at the bit to introduce the next song from her homeland, my adopted homeland. Absolutely.
Yeah, as an Australian, go for it, Lana.
We're back in my native Australia with the Seekers. The Carnival is Over. Written and produced by Tom Springfield on Columbia, and number 1 from the 25th of November to the 16th of December.
Goodbye, my own true lover, as we sing a lover's song. How it breaks my heart to leave you. Now the carnival is gone. High above, the dawn is waking, and my tears are falling rain, for the carnival is over. We may never meet again. Like a drum, my heart was beating, and your kiss was sweet as wine. But the joys of love are fleeting, for Pierrot and Columbine. Now the harbor light is calling. This will be our last goodbye, though the carnival is over. I will love you till I die. Like a drum, my heart was beating, and your kiss was sweet as wine. But the joys of love are fleeting, for Pierrot and Columbine.
Yes, those harmonies are glorious, aren't they? and the
superb harmonies.
Yeah, and the orchestration, I particularly like the use in the first verse of the, I don't know if it's a double bass being played with a bow or a cello, but it's very effective. Yeah, well, that's another winner for me from the Seekers.
Yeah, I mean, we first met the Seekers, didn't we, earlier in the year with "I'll Never Find Another You," and yeah, it's great. I mean, and it's the harmony that there's two things. We said it in the last song. Judith Durham's voice is fantastic, and the harmonies are absolutely brilliant. And also, I mean, again, let's give a shout out to Tom Springfield who wrote this and produced it. And basically, what Springfield was great at doing was finding old kind of traditional songs and reworking them. And this is largely based on a Russian folk song from the 1880s. It has indeed, and. It's just crystal clear enunciation by Judith Durham, and I love that very evocative verse. Now the harbour light is calling. This will be our last goodbye. Though the carnival is over, I love you till I die. It's great songcraft. It's great. It's very, very emotional. And as I say, the brilliant harmonies. Some part I think there's 4-part harmonies by Potka, Atul Gai, and the last sequence name actually eludes me. There's another one there, isn't there? But brilliant singing. Unfortunately, in terms of number ones, we must now say goodbye to the Seekers, but they continue to have hits with a song that every British child will know well from the 70s. That's Morningtown Ride, which was the theme tune for Junior Choice in the 70s, and the beautiful breezy Georgie Girl, which was the title track to the film of the same name, starring Lynn Redgrave. But as you know, Steph, it wasn't quite the end of the Seekers, because they metamorphosed into the new Seekers through... is it Potka or Potchka? Potka.
Well,
how do you pronounce that? I don't know.
I'm pronouncing it how it's written, but I don't know. But it's an unusual name. Bruce Woodley was the fourth member of the quartet.
Bruce Woodley, that's right as well. I'm glad you like it, because it's but you admire the harmonies, presumably, and the Judith Durham singing.
Yes, indeed. And there's nothing that tugs at the heartstrings more than a song about somebody saying goodbye to a soldier as they're leaving for war. I mean, take The Last Farewell by Roger Whittaker, for example, that same kind of thing. Yeah. And there's just nothing. And if you consider that war was a big feature of that decade.
Interesting you raise that, Steph, because it's the whole trope about departure is when I start to think, when he raised that, if you think of songs like Leaving on a Jet Plane or indeed Goodbye to Love by the Carpenters, it's a kind of a very evocative trope, isn't it? People leaving, the end of things, saying goodbye. It's a very, by definition, very evocative furrow for songwriters to plough, isn't it? And Springfield, I think, does it brilliantly here with the Carnival is Over. I think it was the song that became their signature song and was a very obvious conclusion to their live act. It was their kind of the final song of the night by them, and you can see how that would perform that function very effectively.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Now we've got a double A side to finish the 1965. Lana's going to introduce it in a moment, but two strong Beatles songs. Matt, what are we looking out for as we're listening to these? And what I'll do, I'll play a section from both, seamlessly edited, of course.
We're looking out for here, Steph, is one of the most iconic opening intros of the decade, a layered intro by the Beatles with Harrison's incredibly iconic guitar riff, followed up by McCartney playing note for note duplicate below it on the bass. Lennon comes in with his rhythm guitar, and then Starr comes in with his tumbling drums. It is. If you're looking for a layered introduction, this is the definitive. And then We Can Work It Out, a very interesting song, which is often seen as some great dynamics here between Lennon and McCartney, seen as an insight into McCartney's personality and Lennon's personality. McCartney being the slightly more kind of optimistic, let's try and find a way through, and Lennon the kind of world-weary cynic, perhaps in the middle eight. So two very, very interesting songs here by the Beatles.
And who are the primary writers in each of these?
Lennon very much so on the on Day Tripper. Said to be Anecdotally, Lennon's frustration, Day Tripper, there was one school of thought that it's him expressing frustration about weekend drug takers, recreational drug takers who just take drugs at weekends but don't actually change their outlook, i.e. Day Tripper.
I see. Tripper in that sense. Okay, I've got it, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes thought of as a pop at McCartney, who was yet to experiment in LSD as him and Harrison had. A thought that McCartney's riposte on Revolver, Got to Get You Into My Life, was him saying, I'm now ready to do this. Right. But so Lennon on the first one, McCartney predominantly on the second one, but Lennon writing the slightly more downbeat middle eight, which I'll be interested to hear your opinion on.
All right, well, Lana, over to you.
Rounding off the year and claiming the Christmas #1 spot, where they stay for 5 weeks, is the double A side from the Beatles, Day Tripper and We Can Work It Out. It's that familiar combo of Lennon and McCartney, George Martin and Parlophone.
Yeah, it's very interesting what's happening with the production there, with the vocals. In the verses, it's just him singing on his own, and then it's double tracked. But first time I noticed there, just listening to it in the right channel, is it an accordion?
I think it's a harmonium.
Oh yeah, that's
a
right.
harmonium, giving that little little waltzy, that little sort of almost like German sort of sound, which is
of course it is.
A Lennon-esque touch in that. We talked about the kind of differing personalities. It's kind of seen as not just someone very, very optimistic and The kind of bright and breezy kind of, but also someone who liked getting his own way to a certain extent, and it's that try to see it my way. This is a song written about almost undoubtedly about Jane Asher, his girlfriend at the time, and McCartney wrote quite a few songs about Jane Asher, including off the top of my head, And I Love Her, Things We Said Today off Hard Day's Night, and You Won't See Me off Rubber Soul. And this was another one because they were kind of like she was a very, very strong woman carving out her own career, and they're kind of they're well known. They had an amazing relationship in the early days, but I think they kind of started to become a bit fractured in the mid '60s. And McCartney wrote a series of songs about them. Obviously, they split up in the late '60s, and then he pretty quickly married Linda Eastman. But this is another song about Jane Asher. And
what album are these two songs from?
They're not actually on an album. They're between Rubber Soul at the end of '65 and Revolver in the spring of '66. This was number one in Christmas '65. A bit like Get Off My Cloud, which Jagger and Richards had always rushed out commercially. This was almost rushed out under pressure, which showed the Beatles' propensity to going back to Day Tripper. Day Tripper's one of those riffs that every guitarist has to learn. It's a bit like, I wouldn't quite call it the House of the Rising Sun riff, but a bit like that. You get kind of Smoke on the Water, Stairway to Heaven, and you get Day Tripper, and it's one of those riffs. But I hope listeners observe that kind of the layered build up, and it's quite a. I think we've probably used it ourselves. I mean, I use it as a bass player. The bass comes in, something happens, either a piano riff or a guitar riff, and then the bass comes in on the second, underneath it. In this case,
and he's playing quite high up the neck there as well, from the bass.
Yeah, I tend to play. It's actually basically the very first note of the riff is an open E string, which in fact is the lowest note you can get on a guitar. But you're right.
Memory, it sounded like he was climbing up there at one point.
No, I think you're right. I think McCartney is playing that up the octave, starting on a B, which would either be on the third string, second fret, or second string, seventh fret, and he's playing the E from there. Yeah. But then, of course, in that solo, it leaps up to the B, which is another very, very clever touch by the Beatles. There, it's a slightly unusual sort of thing, but a gritty riff, really. This, as I say, apparently Lennon having a pop at sort of part-time drug takers, recreational drug takers who were not, wearing floral shirts at weekends, dabbling in a bit of whatever, and then returning to their office jobs on Monday.
It's interesting that Lennon's philosophy on drug taking is it should be all or nothing. He didn't have room in it.
No, but I think this was no, indeed. I think this was the '60s, and drugs were saying you either in or you out. It's like the tune in, tune out, isn't it? The Timothy Leary. Yeah. It's like you're either part of us, you're either part of the counterculture, or you're a square, which is kind of where that thing came from. So yeah, you're right. There's no real margin for sort of ambiguity with Lennon, and. Yeah, I kind of get that, but that was the '60s, Steph, wasn't it? The '60s was the first decade to really kind of start challenging this stuff. This kind of it's obviously been countercultures before, but this thing about drug taking as a change of mind, if you like, as a kind of change of perspective, not just someone popping a couple of pills at the weekend, then going back to work in a bank on the Monday. Which I think is where Lennon's coming from on Day Tripper. But and so the Beatles really, this is a year the Beatles kind of dominate, I say effortlessly. Three very important songs by the Beatles we've looked at there, Ticket to Ride, Help, four with these two as well. And it was a transitional year, but going back to the year as a whole, and I said this ad nauseum in the first episodes, was the move from folk to electric with bands like the Byrds. And some people have cited 1965 as one of the most important rock years, actually, as a kind of one that shifts. I suppose every year shifts the boundaries somewhat, but this one certainly did, and was starting to pave the way for psychedelia, which really arrived in 66 and 67. And you kind of see just little glimpses of that, even in the mainstream, the top songs. Ken Dodd excluded, of course.
It wasn't there a bit of swapsies going on halfway through this year or not?
So right. I think what happened, Crying in the Chapel was number one on 17th of June. Then it was displaced by I'm Alive. Then Crying in the Chapel went back to number one. Then I'm Alive went back to number one as well. So it's basically Crying in the Chapel, I'm Alive, Crying in the Chapel, I'm Alive. It sequentially it goes Long Live Love, Crying in the Chapel, I'm Alive, Crying in the Chapel, I'm Alive, Mr. Tambourine Man. So just two numbers. So there was basically two runs of those two songs by the Elvis Presley and the Hollies. I hope that clears it up. I hope I haven't muddied the waters further there, but it's an unusual event for that to happen, actually.
Didn't it happen in another year we covered recently? Didn't it happen in 68?
I don't recall it happening in 68.
I think
it was something that occasionally
No,
happened.
there was one.
Oh, no, you're right, Steph. It happened with Mony Mony, Tommy James and the Shondells. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And Fire by the Crazy World of Arthur Brown. So basically, Mony Mony came to number one on the 31st of July for 2 weeks, then Fire by Crazy World of Arthur Brown for 1 week, then Mony Mony returned for 1 week. So you're right. Yeah,
okay.
it was. It wasn't unheard of, but it was an anomaly in those days.
All right. Well, let's wrap up as we always do with our number ones. There were so many. I think there was 25 here over the course of this year. So I'm just going to give you an opportunity to think about it, because I'll probably put you on the spot again. For me, my top three in no particular order are Concrete and Clay, Where Are You Now, My Love, and I Never Find Another You. Yep. So those are my top three from this year. How about you? Are you going to betray the Beatles again for the third year running?
No, I'm not going to betray the Beatles for the third year running, even though it's tempting to.
Just to explain that comment, on two previous years, I think it was 1984 and 1968. 1984, Paul McCartney was number one.
1980 with John Lennon. Was it 1980? I think with John Lennon, I did so.
Well, yeah, but maybe. that was just like starting over. I mean, that's a no-brainer, really. But no, I think that also 1968, the Beatles had a couple of number ones, didn't they? You didn't choose either of those.
Lady Madonna and Hey Jude.
And you didn't choose Paul McCartney in 1984 with
that's true. That's true.
So, mate,
Pipes of Peace.
Pipes of Peace. That's right. So, what do you say about 65?
I'm never going
Very
to go
difficult.
but I could easily not. But Ticket to Ride is such an important song. I'm going to go for these three songs: Ticket to Ride by the Beatles, Where Are You Now, My Love by Jackie Trent. So we've both gone for that, and Get Off My Cloud by the Rolling Stones. What is a very, very tough decision for me, but because in fact I won't say that I could have had. With apologies to the Byrds, the Kinks, the Seekers, and the Walker Brothers. But I want to ask you. I want to ask you about the Easter egg. Are we going to go on to the Easter egg? Because I want to ask you some questions about this.
Yes. Sorry. When we published 1968, ironically, the last of the 3 or 4 episodes that made up 1968 was published at the beginning of February. On the 21st of February, a mutual hero of ours died. In that, I'm talking about Pete Dello. He's certainly somebody that we both admired, isn't he?
Well, he is. Pete Dello I think was a great undersung hero. Now, actually, his real name was Peter Blumson, and perhaps best known really as the lead singer and chief protagonist in Honey Bus, and his very, very iconic number I Can't Let Maggie Go. It reached number 8 in March 1968. Those of us like Steph and myself who grew up in the mid-60s, or born in the mid-60s, grew up in the early 70s in Britain, might well know this as the accompaniment to the very famous Nimble Bread advert, which involved a hot air balloon. And this song, I Can't Let Maggie Go, was on the back of that. And Pete Dello actually later became a music teacher in later life, but always be remembered by this song. So I was very pleased when Steph, yourself, actually raised this as a project that you were masterminding. To re-record your own version of "I Can't Let Maggie Go" with you on vocals and keys, I believe. And I was very very happy and very privileged to play on it. I played bass and I played acoustic 6-string and 12-string guitar, and I felt the end result was a triumph. But I guess I wanted to know from you, what was the inspiration behind selecting that particular track, and where did that idea come from, which I think was a very good one, but I was just intrigued.
Well, I don't know if you remember, it was 2021 and COVID was still very much a thing. And so I was still working from home, and a lot of us were. And we had a discussion and we decided a new Sheep Dip recording. It would be 32 years after we last played together. So Sheep Dip, of course, featured the classic lineup, if I can borrow that language, was you, me, and our friend Guy, who we haven't mentioned very much yet.
Hello, Guy. You're a legend, mate. You're a legend.
No, he is. Well, actually, to be honest, I don't really rate the geezer myself, but if you can call him what you like.
No, not at all. I'm just saying that, but just to keep him happy.
No,
seriously, Guy, we love you.
He's a big part of my story, a big part of my life, as musically and personally, and I do love him. He's like a brother. So what we did, the three of us, our fourth member, Steve, who unfortunately we lost trace of him, and we still don't know where he is. So he used to sing with Sheep Dip back in the 80s when we were performing together. So we needed a new vocalist, and this was in my range, so I decided I'd have a crack at it. And also I had available to me technology to be able to make my voice sound half decent and make repairs where necessary. Steph?
Why this song particularly?
Well, we could have re-recorded something that we did live in the 80s, we could. And I just thought that this was a song which was in the kind of in the ballpark, in the style of the songs that we used to play, and I think it was a good choice. It worked well for us, and it's quite a simple song as well, which made it easy, because I made a video out of it, and it made it easy for editing purposes, and made it easy for us all to play along with each other, play along with the track that I recorded. So what I did, I recorded the track and played my parts. In fact, I played all the parts, and then I had you on bass and guitar, Guy on keys, and our good friend Matt Fairs, who was very much part of our lives in the Sheep Dip days, take over from me on drums. And you basically replaced and played over what I had done as a rough guide. And we also had James Bellamy, who played the outro Goodbye to Love guitar solo. I've worked with him on a number of projects over the years, and he seemed like a good fit for the job. And we also had our good friend Trev come in and play tambourine and just spread some good vibes, as he always does. And the whole thing came together very easily, and I was very happy with the outcome. And the video features footage from us in the early days, as well as a clip from that Nimble ad. So it should be a very nostalgic trip for anybody that takes in this podcast on YouTube. Now, don't seem to say out loud what it is, but I think, can we say which decade we're going to visit next? I think we could perhaps do that, couldn't we?
I think we're going to come kicking and screaming into the relatively modern era, and I think we're going to. We can't put it off any longer. We're going to do the 90s, which may well be welcome for some of our listeners who and I don't knock that at all. But I think we'll find it more challenging to find the quality, personally. But look, Steph and I, take it upon ourselves to find good things wherever we can, in even the most unlikely nooks and crannies of the rock canon. So watch this space. I think
a large part of our existing audience were probably that would be their era, actually. Certainly my wife would she doesn't listen to the pod, so she won't know, but Lana, for example, so she was born in 1979, so she would have been in her teens.
Great year for music, Lana.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we will appeal to much of our listenership and draw in, hopefully, some new listeners. We're working on our social media presence. We have had to acknowledge that we're both pretty poor at that, and so I think we've got some help, which we're very grateful for, and hopefully as time passes, our social media presence will be a bit more professional. Anyway, so Matt, I'll say farewell. Fare thee well.
Farewell.
And,
That's been a theme, as in the carnival is over for this particular week. Just to reference one of the songs we spoke about.
And I think my first words to you when we covered a few episodes ago, when we started this discussion, was "Hail, fellow, well met."
Indeed, and I'll take that every day of the week. Always a pleasure, Steph.
She makes me laugh, she makes me cry, with a twinkle of her eye. She flies like a bird in the sky. She flies like a bird, and I wish that she was mine. She flies like a bird, oh me, oh my, I see, I sigh. Now I know I can't let Maggie go. We walk here, we walk there. People stop, people stare. She flies like a bird in the sky. She flies like a bird, and I wish that she was mine. She flies like a bird, oh me, oh my, I see, I sigh. Now I know I can't let Maggie go. Ba